Hello guys, good morning sa inyo. Uh, First of all, una sa lahat ay gusto ko muna magpakilala sa inyo. I'm Mr. Soriano. Call me 444 or 444. Itong i-share ko sa inyo ay ito yung pag-aralan ko nung nag-aaral pa ako ng criminology. Hindi ko na i-ano sa inyo kung anong school, kung saan ako galing. Gusto ko lang i-share sa inyo itong ito ay kailangan na alam niyo dahil nung kami bago ka makakuha ng permit, kailangan mong i-perform ito o i-ano sa harap nila para bago nila i-release yung permit namin noon. Kaya medyo hirap din, lalo na pag graduated student na kayo. Ito yung tungkol sa law enforcer, code of ethics na talagang pinaano sa amin noon, pinamemorize sa amin, kaya hirap naman kami sa ano. Ito yung gusto ko share sa inyo na para makasurvive kayo sa pag-aaral. Ito ay share ko sa mga criminology student o yung mga nag-aaral pa. Law enforcer, code of ethics. As a law enforcement officer, my fundamental duty is to serve mankind, to safeguard lives and properties, to protect the innocents against deceptions, the weak against oppressions or intimidations, and the peaceful against violence or disorder, and to respect the constitutional right of all men to liberty, equality, and justice. I will keep my private life and social life as an example to all. Maintain the courageous calm in the face of danger. Scorn or ridicule, develop self-restraint, and be constantly mindful for the welfare of others. Honest in thought, in deed, in both my personal and official life. I will be exemplary in obeying the law of the land and the regulations of my department. Whatever I see or hear of a confidential nature or that is confided to me in my official capacity will be kept ever secret unless revelation is necessary in the performance of my duty. I will never act officiously or permit personal feelings, prejudices, animosities, or offensive to influence my decision with no compromise for crime and with relentless persecutions of criminals. I will enforce the law courteously and appropriately without fear or favor malice, for I will never employ unnecessary force or violence and never accepting gratuities. I recognize the badge of my office as a symbol of public faith, and I accept it as a public trust to be held so long as I am true to the ethics of police service. I will constantly strive to achieve these objectives and ideals, dedicating myself before God to my chosen profession, law enforcement. Yan mga guys, kailangan memorize nyo yan dahil dun sa pinanggalingan kong school ay napakaigpit nila. Pero kung hindi nyo man gagawin yan sa mga school ninyo, mas maganda pag makabisado nyo. Kasi pag kayo ay pulis na o magpupulis pa lang, ay dati nyo nang alam. Ang susunod ko naman, ito yung makikita nyo ng mga batas na nasa RPC. Ito yung Revised Penal Code of the Philippines. Ito naman ay nasa isa natin sa itong Title 1 kasi napapaloob ito yung the general provision regarding the date of effectiveness and application of the provision and regarding about the offenses, person liable, and the penalties. Itong book 1 na ito under ng RPC ay meron itong hanggang Title 5. Ang unang title nito ay yung felony and circumstances. Felony circumstances which affect criminal liability. Yun yung Title 1. Yung Title 2 naman ay yung persons criminally liable of felony. At ang Title 3 naman ay ito yung penalties. Title 4, ito yung extinction of criminal penalties. At the last one is ito yung civil liability. Ano naman tayo? Dito tayo sa pupunta tayo sa mga definition. Itong Title 1, Chapter 1 ito yung felony. Definition of felony. Define a felony. Felony, act and emission punishable by law are felony. Delito. Felonies are committed not only by means of deceit, dolo, but also by means of fault, culpa. And there is deceit when the wrongful act performed with deliberate intent, and there is fault when the wrongful act result from imprudence, negligence, lack of foresight, and lack of skill. Dito naman tayo sa criminal liability. Criminal liability, any person or by any person committing an offense, although the wrongful act done be different from that which he intended. At yung pangalawa, under criminal liability, by any person performing an act which would be an offense against person or property were it not be different. Okay. Hindi gano'n. Ito pala. By any person performing an act which would be an offense against person or property were it not be for the inherent impossibilities of its accomplishment or on account for the employment of inadequate or ineffectual means. Dito naman tayo ngayon sa susunod natin na article na article, ito yung consummated felony, frustrated, and attempted felonies. Ito naman yung consummated. Consummated felony as those which are frustrated and attempted are punishable. A felony is consummated when all the requisite necessary in the execution felony is consummated when all the elements necessary for its execution and accomplishment are present. And it is frustrated when the offender performs all the act for execution, which would produce the felony as a consequence, but which nevertheless do not produce it by reason of causes, independence of the will of the perpetrator. Yan yung mga consummated, felony, attempted, at frustrated. Dito naman tayo ngayon sa conspiracy. Conspiracy naman, ito ang definition ng conspiracy. Conspiracy, only in the cases that the law especially provide a penalty. Therefore, conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning teka lang, medyo pero okay lang, medyo naangisip ko pero ngayon, ito naman, ano na yung ginawa ko? Conspiracy. Okay. Ito yung conspiracy only in the cases which the law especially provide a penalty. Therefore, a conspiracy exists when two or more persons come to an agreement concerning in the commission of a felony and decide to commit it. Yan ang conspiracy. Punta naman tayo ngayon sa grave felony, less grave felony, and less grave felony, light felony. Doon naman tayo. Ang definition niyan, grave felony, those persons to which the law attaches the capital punishment or penalties which in any of the periods are afflicted in the accordance of Article 25 of this code. At yung less grave felony naman, ito naman yung which the law punishes with penalties which in their maximum periods are correctional in accordance of the above mentioned article. And the last one is light felonies. Light felonies, those are infraction of law for the commission of which the penalties of arresto menor or a fine not exceeding 200 pesos or both is provided. O, dyan muna tayo sa grave ceremony. Ngayon, susunod naman natin ay itong justifying circumstances. Itong justifying circumstances, ito yung justifying circumstances. The following are justifying circumstances. The following do not incur any criminal liability. Do not incur any criminal liability pala. Okay. Number 1 dyan, ito yung unlawful aggression. Sumunod, ito yung reasonable necessity of the means employed to prevent or repel it. At ang pangatlo, ito yung lack of sufficient provocation on the part of the person defending himself. Tapos ang number 2, any person defending himself or any person Saan na tayo? Sa ano pala tayo? Justifying circumstances. Dito tayo pala. Nasa ano na pala tayo? Anyone who act in defense. Ito yung number 2. Anyone who act in defense of his person or rights, his spouse, ascendant, descendant, or legitimate, natural or adopted brother or sisters, or his relative by affinity, within the first degree, and those consanguinity within the fourth civil degree, provided that the first and second requisite mentioned in the next proceeding article are present. And the rather requisite, in case that the provocation was given by the person attacked, that's the one defense making had no part therein. At ang susunod natin, ito yung number 3. Ito yung any person who act in defense of the right of the person or right of a stranger, provided that the first and second requisite mentioned in the first proceeding in this article are present. Wait. Sana pala tayo. Yung sa number 3 na tayo pala. Under ng justifying circumstances. Ito pala yung anyone who act in defense of the person or right of a stranger is supposed, provided that the person's second requisite mentioned in the first proceeding in this article are present, and that the person defending be not induced, revenge, resentment, or other evil motive. Yan yung number 3. Then, number 4 tayo ngayon. Ito yung that sufficient provocation or threat on the part of the person defending, provided that the following circumstances I know. Number 4 pala ay ano pala yun? Anyone who act in order to avoid an evil or injury doesn't act which causes damage to another, provided that the following circumstances are present. That the evil sought, yun yung number 1. That the evil sought is avoided, actually exists. Number 2, ito yung that the injury feared be greater than that done to avoid it. Number 3, ito yung that there be no other practical or less harmful means of avoiding it. Dito ngayon tayo saan ba tayo? Number 5 na tayo. Ito yung any person who act in the fulfillment of a duty or in the lawful exercise of a right or office. Yun yung number 5. Then number 6 tayo ngayon. Ito yung anyone who act in obedience to an order issued by a superior for lawful purposes. Hanggang dyan muna tayo sa justifying circumstances. Mga guys, susunugan naman natin itong circumstances which mitigate criminal liability. mitigating circumstances. The following are mitigating circumstances. Ito yung mga yon. Number one, those mentioned in the preceding chapter, when all the requisite to justify and all the requisite necessary to justify the act or exempt from criminal liability in the respective cases are not attendant. Yun yung number one. Number two naman tayo ngayon. Ito yung that the offender is under 18 years of age or over 70 years. In the cases of the minor, he shall be proceeded against in accordance with the provision of Article 80 in this code. Yun yung number 2. Number 3 tayo ngayon. Ito naman yung any person that the offender had no intention to commit. Number 3 yun. The offender had no intention to commit. So grave are wrong. As that committed. Yun yung number 3. Then number 4 naman, ito yung number 4. Any person I know susunod ay that the person ano ba yun? Teka lang. Medyo ano kasi Number 7 pala yun. Number 7. That the offender had voluntarily surrender himself to a person in authority or his agent or that he had voluntarily confessed his guilt before the court prior to presentation of the evidence for the prosecution. Yun yung number 7. At yung susunod, number 8, that the offender is deaf and dumb, blind, otherwise suffering some physical defect. Which those restricts his means of action, defense, or communication with his fellow being. Oh guys, ano muna tayo Kasi dyan muna tayo at tapos sa circumstances which mitigate criminal liability. Dito ngayon tayo sa Title 2. Ito naman yung persons criminally liable for felony. Yan yung nasa Title 2 yan. Yes, Title 2. Persons criminally liable for felony. Who are criminally liable. The following are criminally liable of grave or less grave felony are, dyan yung principal, accomplices, and accessories. Sunod naman, the following criminally liable for less grave. Meron tayong dalawa dito. Ito yung principal at saka yung accomplices. Tapos dito tayo ngayon sa definition ng principles. Yung principles may tatlo ito eh. Ito yung number 1. Principles, the following are considered principles. Ganun. Those, number 1, those take a direct part in the execution of the act. Number 1 yan. Number 2, ito yung that take those who directly or force induce others to commit it. Ang number 3 naman, ito yung cooperate in the commission of a felony. Proposes its execution to some other person or persons. Then, no, hindi pala yun. Ito pala yun. Cooperate in the commission, cooperate in the execution of the offense, to and previous and simultaneous act. Tapos yung susunod naman, ito yung accomplices. Accomplices, any person who or not being included in Article 17 cooperate in the execution of the offense, proposes its execution for some other person or persons. Yung pala yung accomplices. Ngayon, punta tayo sa accessories. Ang accessories naman, any person having knowledge in the commission of a crime and without having participated therein, either as principal or accomplices, take part subsequent for each for each commission for each commission uh, for each commission and any of the following manners. Ito yung number 1. To profiting or by profiting themselves. Number 1 yun by profiting themselves or assisting the offender to profit and the effects of the crime. Number 1 yan. Number 2 tayo naman, ito yung concealing or destroying the body of the crime. Or the effect or instrument thereof in order to prevent its discovery. Then the last one, ito naman yung number 3 na harboring, concealing, or assisting of the escape of the principle of the crime and the accessory act with abuse of his public function, or whenever the author of the crime is guilty of treason, parricide, murder, or an attempt to take the life of the chief executive, or is known to be habitually guilty of some other crimes. Yun yung ng accessories. Nasa tatlo yan. The last one is how the accessory exempt from criminal liability. The penalties prescribed for accessories shall not be imposed upon those persons who are such with respect of their spouse, ascendant, descendant, or legitimate, natural, or adopted brother or sisters, or his relative by affinity within the same degree, with the single exceptions of accessory falling which the provision of paragraph 1 to the next preceding article. Yan ang ng mga accessories. Yan ay under ng persons criminally liable of felony. Yan yung version ng nasa title 2 yan. Ngayon, pupunta naman tayo sa next na yun ay under siya ng Revised Penal Code Book 1. Yun yung the general provision regarding the date of enforcement or application of the provision, and regarding the offenses, persons criminally liable, and the penalties. Ngayon, punta naman tayo sa under siya ng Revised Penal Code Book 2. Ang napapaloob dito, ito yung mga crimes and penalties ng Book 2. Pero mahaba kasi ito eh. Bali, bibigay ko na lang sa inyo yung mga title hanggang title 15 yan. Hanggang title 15. Ang title 1 dyan, ito yung title 1, ito yung crimes against national security in the law of the nation. Pangalawa, ito yung crimes against the fundamental law of the state. Title 3 natin dyan, ito yung crimes against public interest. Nandiyan yung mga forgery, mga ganyan. Marami yan, maraming article. Tapos ang number 3 pala yun, yung public order pala, crimes against public order yan. Yung number 3. Diyan papasok yung number 4 pala, yung crimes against public interest. Diyan papasok yung mga forgeries. Sa 5 naman natin, ito yung crimes relative to opium and other prohibited drugs. Ito papasok yung mga 9165, yung mga sa drugs, marami yan eh. Tapos yung mga ano pa niya, yung mga basta about drugs yan. Any kind of prohibited drugs nandyan sa may title 5 na yan. Ayun, title 6 tayo. Ito yung crimes against public moral. Diyan naman napapalood yun yung mga gambling and betting. Nandyan yan sa title 6 na yan. About gambling yan. Ito naman sa may susunod natin, ito yung ito yung preliminary revision. Ito yung crimes committed by public officer. Yan yung mga nakalagay dyan, yung mga violation ng mga public official. Diyan napapaloob yan. Ngayon, ito namang nasa title 8, ito yung crimes against person or destruction of life. Yan papasok yung mga parricide, homicide, murder, diyan napaloob yan. Marami yung article yan, mahaba. Kasi kung i-explain pa natin, matatagalan tayo. Bali sinasabi ko na lang yung mga title, yan. Diyan papasok yung title 8. Diyan lahat. Yung about, pupunta naman tayo sa may title 9. Ito yung crimes against individual liberty and security. Title na yung mga security, mga ano ba na yan, mga security. Title 10 tayo. Dito yung crimes against property. Nandyan sa loob yung mga property, yung mga robbery in general. Nandyan lahat yan. Yan yung papasok yung mga robbery. Basta nandyan lahat, mga robbery in general, nandyan yan sa crimes against property. Tapos susunod itong crimes against chastity. Itong crimes against chastity, ito yung bali ang mga nasa mga article niyan, ito yung papasok dyan nandyan yung mga kaso ng mga adultery and concubinage. Yung adultery naman, yan yung mga kaso ng mga babae na yung mga nangangaliwa ng mga babae. Ang concubinage naman, yan yung mga kaso ng mga mga ano ng lalaki pag sila nangangaliwa. Nandyan lahat yan. Oo, nandyan sa title na yan. Crimes Against Justice. Nandyan lahat yan. Then, nasusunod naman, ito naman yung simulation of birth and usurpation of civil status. Civil status. Yan yung pag-aano ng halimbawa yung pagpapanggap, nandyan din yung mga kaso ng illegal use of PNP or AFP or Insigma. Nandyan lahat yan. Mahirap kasi pag i-explain ko lahat. Sobrang dami yan. Then ang susunod naman, ito yung crimes against honor. Libel yan, libel. Nandyan lahat, libel yan. Sa yan, sa title 13 na tayo, di ba? Title 13 na yan. Libel, nandyan lahat yan. Mga paninirang puri, yan nandyan sa mga title na yan. Tapos sa title 14 tayo, ito yung quasi-offenses or criminal negligence. Ito yung under ng quasi-offenses, criminal negligence. Ito yung mga about negligence yan. Crimes. And the last one, title 15, ito yung yung final prohibition. Nandito lahat yung judgment. Doon para tayo sa may hanggang dyan na, tapos na yan, book 2 na yan, hanggang title 15. No need to explain kasi sobrang dami ng mga article dyan Pag sinabi mo lahat, mahaba. Kasi maraming article yan. Mag-start ang article yan hanggang nung nag-aaral ako, nasa 360 article yan Mula ang dami, hindi lang. Kasi may mga mga city ordinance, mahirap i-explain. Kasi sobrang haba. Ayun naman bali, dito tayo katapos tayo sa book 2. Ito, yung bago. Bali, sinabi ko lang yung mga Ngayon, balik tayo dun sa may felony and circumstances. Felony tayo. Then, dun sa title 1 tayo. Andiyan yung felony. Diyan tayo yung felony, tapos yung sa penalties pala, yung title 3 tayo sa penalties, and then yung penal in general, penalties in general, article 1, tapos may lima yan sa penalties yun yung classification of penalties, duration and effect of penalties, tapos yung number 4, yan yung application of penalties. At saka yung number 5, yan yung basta hanggang hanggang 5. Hindi ko na kasi. Ngayon, una naman tayo sa book 1, dun sa date of effectiveness. Ito yung preliminary title first ng book 1. Ito yung date of effectiveness and application of the provision of this code. Hindi natin kasi kanina yan, bali na yan. Ito naman, ito yung time when act takes effect. Ayan. Time when act takes effect, this code should take effect on the first day of January 1932. Ang tagal 1932 pa. Bali before World War II pa yun. Kasi World War II, 1945. Tapos ito yun, application of its provision except as provided in these treaties and laws of preferential application. This provision shall enforce not only within the Philippine archipelago, including its atmosphere, its interior waters, and maritime zone, but also outside of his jurisdiction against those who, may lumayan. Number one dyan number one, yung should commit an offense while on a Philippine ship or airship. Number two, should hoard or counterfeit any coins or currency note of the Philippine island, obligations and securities issued by the government of the Philippine island. Ito yung number 2. Number 3 tayo. Ito yung number 3, should be liable of any of act connected with the introduction into those island of the obligations and securities mentioned in the next preceding article. Then, number 4, ito yung while being public officers or employees should commit an offense in the exercise of their function. And the last one is number 5. Yan yung should commit a crime against the national security and the law of the nation, defined in Title 1 of Book 2. Yan ang yun uli ng preliminary title, yung date of effectiveness and application of the provision of this book. So guys, dyan na muna tayo. Sa susunod na lang ulit kasi itong niyaano natin about naman sa susunod yung ito kasi ang inano natin more in RPC, Revised Penal Code Book 1 and Book 2. Pero yung Book 2 madaming article yan. Kasi nung in-explain sa amin nung naging teacher ko na prosecutor, magaling talaga yun. Pero sa susunod, iba naman about may relation sa mga criminology subject. Yung criminology subject, madami kasi rin yan. Criminology subject, madami yan. Kasi first year to first year. Yung question na lang, sabihin ko sa inyo, yung mga probation, about law yun, security management, ganyan, industrial and security management, yung about sa marksmanship, fingerprint, etc. Marami kasing course, marami kasing subject ang criminology. Sa susunod, i-share ko sa inyo yan. Pero kailangan din kasi yung iba nakalimutan ko na yun. Kailangan kong i-review muna. Mga guys, sa susunod, magpo-post ako ulit. Sana gustuhan niyo itong video ko. Salamat sa inyong lahat. Next time, sana mag-like kayo sa video ko na ito. Lalo na kayong mga estudyante pa lang ng criminology o future criminology o police na ngayon. Saludo ako sa inyong lahat. Post Chief. Salamat. Salamat. Salamat ulit. Bye-bye.